All right, guys, I'm going to do something very quickly and I want you to observe it. So I'm going to come to this place right now. I'll change the size of this to 24, right? See that? I'm going to press enter. So that's going to shrink that thing down. All right. So now I'm going to press print like that. Then I'll come here, press properties, click auto set paper, click OK. It doesn't matter. I want to show you something on the machine. Then I'm going to send this job for print. Now, while we're waiting, I want you to observe the number we put for the width. We said 24 inches, right? Okay, now let's send the job and let's see exactly what the machine is going to do. Now, the machine is already starting about to print. Now, I want you to pay attention to the distance that the machine is going to go based on what we set it to do. Now, the machine is printing. I want you to pay attention to something. All of this is not what I want to show you. There's something I want to show you, and that will form the basis of our video today. All right. So I'm going to pause this right now and take a measurement of the distance from here all the way to right here. And then we're going to see what number it falls into. Are you ready? All right, let's do it. All right, so I have my ruler measurement here. This is start number 1, which is effectively at the start of this print. And then I have my ruler number 2, which is the second point, and that puts you at 24 inches. What does that tell you? Well, that tells you that the machine knows 24 inches. Actually, the real question that I'm posing in this video is, how does your machine know these kinds of numbers? How does your machine calculate 24 inches? It's just a machine. It doesn't have a brain. All it's made up is metal, plastic, a printer head, and anything else, right? But how does it sense I'm to start from this point and I'm supposed to start 24 inches after? And guess what? A lot of people don't know why this happens. And why it happens is because of this guy right here. So in this video, I want to explain to you what the raster or the encoder strip does. Now, I want you to hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, turn on the notification bell, because this is going to be as exciting as it has done to me. Let's get into the video. All right, guys. So every machine comes attached with this transparent sellotape. When I first saw it myself, I thought it was a sellotape, and I wondered, what exactly is a sellotape doing on the machine? After a couple of months, I had to run into a couple of sets of problems, and from that set of problems, I realized what precisely this thing does in your machine. So that's what I'm about to explain to you. Now, this is called the encoder strip, and as simple as it looks, it does some amazing things in your machine. First and foremost, this transparent looking thing is actually not transparent. If you look at it a bit, you'll see that it is kind of like dull and dark. Now, that dull and dark is actually not dull because they printed a dull paper. No, it's actually dull and dark because what you see that is looking dark in front of you are sets of tiny lines. Let me zoom in with a high-speed camera and show you what exactly is inside that thing. Now, I don't know if you've seen this, but there is some tiny amount of lines right on these cables. If I zoom in too much, I lose it. But if I get the right angle of zoom, I begin to notice the lines. I don't know if you can see that. Right. So essentially, what you find in an encoder strip is a tiny set of lines that are only visible to the person that is looking at it. And the person that is looking at it is the encoder sensor. So in the next part of this video, I'm going to take these things out and I'll show you what the encoder strips is encoded with and what sensor was designed to read it. So hold on in a minute and I'll be back. Now, to really make sense of what's going on, what I did was I brought a brand new encoder strip. When you buy an encoder strip from us, it normally looks like this, right? In a transparent nylon like this. Now you can see what the strip looks like when you just open it. It looks kind of like dark, but it's not exactly dark, as you will see in this video. If I hold this against, say, a high-speed camera, like my Google Pixel, you get to start seeing the lines, right? Now, these lines are encoded lines. And what it does is it sends what you can say an input output signal to this board. Now, how does the board actually read that input output signal? Well, it does so by the agency of this sensor right here. So I'm going to pause this video right now and I will show you what this sensor really looks like and how it does it. Now, usually the encoder sensor is, held down by these tiny little screws, the screw and this other screw right here. So all you just need to do is to loose out that screw. So funnily, I've not touched my own sensor in years, right? But I just have to show you for the purpose of this video. Now, really, when it's not installed, it normally looks like this. All right, so I'm going to pause the video now and I'll take out the sensor and then I'll show you. Right, by the way, the sensor actually connected by this cable that you see here, and it goes under that hood and snakes up all the way to there and then goes into that slot. All right, so the next part you're going to see in this video is me taking it out. All right, so we're out. So this is the encoder sensor, right? And it's pretty much like this. If I had taken these screws out, it would just be like this. So this housing normally comes with your machine. This is basically what you change. But how do you change what you don't even know is the problem? So that's why we're doing this explanation. So now this sensor, right? What it does is, in the way it is housed in your machine, it goes in the middle of this cable. Not this way, not at the back, but in the center, like this. I want you to think about what it really does for a moment. To understand what it does, imagine my fingers. Imagine that these fingers are the lines 1, 2, 3, 4. In between these lines are spaces, space, space, and space. There's an infrared sensor in the middle of this cable. The infrared sensor takes note of when it has a blockage and takes note of when there is a signal that passes through. If a signal passes through, it means therefore that this sensor has two parts to it. The first part is the one that sends the signal. And I don't know if you can see it. You can see one tiny glass tube on that side. On the other hand, however, is another chip. I don't know if you can see it from here. It's really difficult to see, but let me see if I can zoom in. Right, let me see if I can zoom in some more. You see that there is a receiver, the sender on this side, and there's a receiver on that side. What do they send? What do they receive? All right, so let's go back out. So this part of the sensor sends an infrared light. Let's say this is the sender of the infrared light, and I am in between like this. It's going to be passing, in between my hands like this. When it's at here, it senses a blockage. But when it's at here, the light can pass through. Then when it gets to this place, it sends the light, but it senses a blockage. So it knows I have moved. And then it goes here again. It realizes, oh, the phase changes have transformed. So in the first case, I have a connection between here and here. It's a blockage. And then I move forward. I see that the lights can pass. And I move again. I see there's a blockage. I move again. I see the light can pass. I move again. I see a blockage. I move again. The light has passed. I move again. I see a blockage. I move again. The light has passed. You see, those phase changes, those electrical changes, is what an encoder strip and an encoder sensor does. Once the machine realizes that I had a blockage, I had a space, it records that as a movement. And it sends that movement as electrical signals through these wires up onto this board. And then it tells the machine where it is in time and space. To demonstrate that for you, I'm going to do something for you right now. I will not put this sensor back on this machine that I took it out from. And so also the strip is there. I'm going to take all of these out of the way, and then we're going to see the behavior of this machine at initialization. Now, normally the machine initializes by going left, right, and then goes back and sits on the card like that. But when it doesn't see the sensor, it therefore doesn't even know where left is, where right is, right? So the machine begins to behave in this drunken manner, as you will soon see. So I'm going to pause the video now and turn on the machine, and I'll show you what the machine will do when it doesn't sense this sensor. So the board starts up. You can see those lights beeping. Now, but you see the machine is looking for the encoder sensor. It can't find it. So because it can't find it, it doesn't know where left is, it doesn't know where right is. It doesn't know even things like 4 feet, 24 inches, or those things I was showing you earlier. And because it doesn't know that, it runs into what you call a carriage problem, which is known as your famous car stall error, right? So this is essentially not a video about car stall power down, but this is one thing to look at. If your machine, for instance, just suddenly shows you car stall, it was working yesterday night, but all of a sudden just shows you car stall, then one of the plausible causes might be this film right here. Now, a couple of times it might be that the film is fine, but it's dirty. How does dirt affect it? Think about it again. If this is my sensor and this is my film, right? Now, my film has these tiny lines on top of my film. Imagine if I had, you remember that my sensor is supposed to read like this and then spot a space and then spot a blockage and spot a space and spot a blockage, which is exactly the same thing as the lines that you will see on the head, right? It's just a pity I can't show you those lines right now, but if you look closer, I don't know if you can see that line, right? So that's the line that it's trying to read. Imagine if it goes to this place, it finds a blockage, and it goes to where it sees a space, it automatically knows it has moved. Like the way we track the movement of bodies of the moon, of the sun, and then see that it was at this position before, now it has moved to this position where it has blocked, and then it has moved to this position. That is basically how this machine knows movement. Now, because there's no sensor to read this cable, it then automatically doesn't know what is going on, right? It doesn't even know where it is. And so that's why you have a car stall. Now, how does this thing being dirty affect it? Well, think about it. If I'm supposed to be at here and then sense movement and be at here and then sense movement. Now, suppose I had a smudge on my cable, and because of the smudge, all of these things were blocked. Then now the machine has a problem, because here is blocked, here is blocked, here is blocked, here is blocked, and all of this place is open. Now, if you have so many blockages like that along the row of the machine then has a problem with defining, okay, where was I last? The coders was designed to notice spaces in between, so to know here and then go find light passing through here, and then there's a blockage and there's light passing through like that, as I showed you on the sensor. But what you do when this strip is dirty is that you create a smudge that blocks up all of the lines, and so the machine no longer can see. Hope you understand what I'm saying. All right, so now suppose you had a problem of car stall power down and your machine was really not wiggling like that. Really, the reason your machine is wiggling like that was because the cables were even lost altogether. But there are times when the sensor is there and the cable is also there as well, but you get this car stall. And one of the first things you can do is to go to this strip and then clean it with alcohol. Now, when you clean this with alcohol, well, alcohol in your country may mean different things, right? But make sure that anything ranging from water to very mild alcohol is what you're using. As a matter of fact, I'll prefer you use water and soap, Alcohol should be the last thing you should do if you don't find water and soap, because basically what you're trying to do is like when you're cleaning the face of your glass, you just want this thing to be clean so that you can see those line spaces, right? Now, once you can do that, then the machine gets to be in proper shape. Now, there are times when by the time you look at this strip, some parts of the strip is smudged out, is blocked out, and all of that. If in such a way you realize that the lines printed on this thing is peeled off, now you have a serious problem in your hands and you may have to change this strip. And to change the strip is just essentially you calling us and then buying a strip from us. Or if you have a vendor that sells to you, fine, you can always do that. The last question I want to cover is, so how does this affect printing? Well, that's quite easy, because if you think about it, for every time the machine is moving, it's sensing a particular location where it is. It knows, okay, I'm moving from point 0 to 24, like it did over here. Now, suppose by the time it was coming back, it doesn't have a location to track as the starting point of the 24. And then suppose the initial location, let's say this is the initial location of your 24 from my pinky to my first finger. Now, suppose when it was going, it went from here all the way to here, and here remains stationary. And it's going to spray ink as it is going like that. So it's not just like it's moving on its own, it's moving and spraying ink on that location. Now, think about if by the time it was now coming back, the position of my 0 had changed to here. Now, what would happen is that number one, it now lacks origin. So it doesn't know where your last origin was. So it effectively means that your next line of print will become edged one step further. And then by the time it goes to the next row, that also will move one step further. And then by the time it goes to the next row, that would also move one step further. And then by the time it goes the third time, it also moves one step further. So that is what happens when you send a print and it does not start at the same origin. It begins to bend outwards like this because this strip is bad, blotched out, or you need to change it. So those kind of problems, especially that causes cart error, are so minor an error that if you know exactly how these things behave in first principles, then you can at least have an idea why you have that particular cart error that you have. All right, so I'm going to put the sensor back on now, right? And we're going to turn on the exact same machine and we're going to see how it'll behave, the very same machine that was giving you Castor. So I'm going to pause this video now and install that and then turn on the machine and then see how it'll behave. I have put the sensor back. One thing to note when you're putting the sensor is that the film has to pass in between the sensor. Remember when I said that? It has to pass in between the sensor. I can zoom in so you can see it. That the film is actually in between the sensors. Right? So now that you've gotten that, I'm going to turn on the same machine now. And then we're going to see the behavior of the exact same machine with the sensor back on. Now you can see that the behavior of the machine is now proper, but I'm going to turn it off right now. And the reason I'm turning it off is because of these wires. Because if this wire, which is a printhead wire, mistakenly runs into this place and then it slits this thing out from its slot, I could lose either a board or a printer head, and I don't want that to happen right on the video. So I'm just going to cover this plate up. And then you turn the machine back on. Right? Now, you will notice that the machine is looking for position. Now, for every single time that machine is moving, always keep this picture in your mind that the sensor is looking for these spaces like that, right? And it's using the spacing in between this that runs across all of these to determine the resolution, or as it were, the accuracy of your print. So if you send a 6-foot job, the machine is going to take the sensor reading from this position and then terminate at wherever that line says is 6 feet on the far side. So the machine is not actually doing magic. It's just using mathematics and a bit of clever engineering to be able to determine, okay, this is the position from here all the way to there. The machine actually doesn't have enough sense to know. And that's why when you set origin to be here, the machine knows where to start from. And then it calculates from where you said it should start from, whatever are the printed lines at that spot. It calculates all the way from there and it goes all the way to the end there. And remember when we were talking about maximum width exceed, but suppose you had said the machine should start from right here, and then it takes the sensor reading at this particular position and calculates that to be a certain millimeter point, and then you're saying do 6 feet from here all the way to there. If the machine senses that it cannot have 6 feet from here all the way to there, it's going to stop, and then it's going to throw you an error max width exceeded. So you see, this tiny little film, as simple as it looks, is a game changer. And one of the first things, in fact, the day I realized what this thing does was one of the times I began to realize, oh, I think I actually understand how large format machines behave. Now, if you look in almost any inkjet printer, one of which is a large format machine, you'll find this strip. So as a last bonus, I'm going to pause this video now and show you an HP DexJet that has the exact same strip. And then we'll end the video, so that at least you can know almost every machine that runs linearly is going to use this. There's some other types of linear strips, encoders rather. There are different types of encoders. There's rotary, there's linear, and I'm going to show you the pictures on the screen right now. But this one in particular is the one you use for linear motion when you want machines to move from left all the way to right. If you needed a different type of motion, then you probably would use any of these other ones, except let's say for instance you're trying to build something maybe with an Arduino kit or something. You would definitely be able to use any of these other encoder strips and sensors. But in large format machines, and especially inkjet printers, this is the kind of strip they use. I'm going to pause this video now and show you what it looks like on an HP DexJet, and then we're going to be done with this video. All right, this is an HP DexJet. When was that? It's an 2720. It's a small HP machine. And then if you come down here and then look inside there, I hope you can see the strip. That is the strips, guys. That is the strip. I don't know if you can see it. That's the strip. So all machines that run linearly to print would always have that linear strip. I hope you understand. So that's how your machine knows where to move, and that's how it knows where A4 is, A5 is, and all of that calculations. Obviously, that calculation is done by your Carriage board, which I had showed you on the other machine. But I just wanted you to know that linear encoders are common across multiple devices. It's used in medicine, it's used in aviation, it's used in rocket science, it's used in just about anything that has to move left and right and has to know positioning left and right. All right, guys, I hope this video has helped you. If it has, I want you to hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, turn on the notification bell, and then join our membership. We're beginning to increase the importance of our content. So in the near future, you'll be seeing a lot more scientific content that really explains the nitty-gritty of how these things work. But till then, I want you to stay tuned, and we will be back in another video. Bye. Take care.